I was 38 years old. I ran 5 miles every morning. I ate well. I slept 7 hours. And then one Tuesday, during a walk to my car, my chest seized. The cardiologist told me something I will never forget. He said, "You weren't unhealthy. You were invisibly sick." That phrase changed everything. I thought I knew about the human heart. Because the truth is, the most dangerous heart attacks don't happen to people who ignore their health. They happen to people who believe they've already done enough. Half of all heart attack victims have normal cholesterol, half. So what is actually happening inside the chest of a person who looks perfectly fine? The answer begins not in the heart itself, but in the walls of the arteries feeding it. And what's hiding there will shock you. The medical term is silent ischemia, and it may be the most perfectly named condition in all of human biology. Ischemia means reduced blood flow. Silent means you feel absolutely nothing. Studies show that up to 40% of all cardiac events are preceded by episodes of silent ischemia that went completely undetected, sometimes for years. Evolutionarily, this makes a brutal kind of sense. Our ancient ancestors needed to keep moving despite injury. Pain suppression systems evolved to keep us functional. But that same ancient adaptation now hides arterial damage behind a wall of neurological silence. The surprise? Silent ischemia is often worse in people who exercise regularly. Their pain tolerance is higher. Their nervous systems have been trained to suppress discomfort signals. Fitness, in a dark irony, can mask the very warning signs it should be generating. Your arteries are not simple pipes. They are living organs, and like all living things, they can become inflamed. Chronic low-grade inflammation inside arterial walls is now considered by cardiologists to be the primary driver of heart disease, not cholesterol alone. The ancient Greeks observed that certain people aged faster from the inside, their vessels hardening like stone. We now know why. When the immune system senses microscopic damage to the arterial endothelium, it deploys macrophages, white blood cells that arrive to repair the wound. But when damage is constant, these immune soldiers become overwhelmed. They fill with oxidized fat. They die in place. They calcify. The plaque they leave behind is not soft debris. It becomes a buried calcium fortress. And here is the shocking twist. It is the soft, unstable plaques, the ones not yet calcified, that rupture and kill without any warning. Stress is not a feeling. It is a biochemical event, and it is remodeling your arteries right now. When cortisol floods the bloodstream, it instructs the body to do something that once saved lives on the African savanna. It constricts blood vessels, raises pressure, and mobilizes energy reserves instantly. For our ancestors, this lasted minutes. For modern humans, chronic stress keeps cortisol elevated for weeks, months, sometimes years. The result is a sustained internal pressure storm that mechanically injures the endothelial lining of your coronary arteries and the very lining that keeps plaque from forming. Studies now show that people with hyperperceived stress have a 27% higher risk of heart attack, even when all other risk factors are identical. The most dangerous thing about stress is that it doesn't feel biological. It feels like life. But inside your arteries, life and disease have become the same thing. Sleep is cardiac medicine, and almost no one treats it that way. During deep, slow-wave sleep, the heart rate drops, blood pressure falls, and something remarkable happens. The cardiovascular system undergoes active repair. Inflammatory markers drop. Endothelial cells restore their surface. The autonomic nervous system shifts from sympathetic fight or flight into parasympathetic recovery. But when sleep is consistently cut below 6 hours, this repair window closes. Studies tracking over 1 million adults found that chronic short sleepers had a 61% higher risk of cardiovascular disease. What makes this evolutionary paradox so striking is that sleep is when we are most vulnerable to predators, yet the body sacrifices safety for cardiac maintenance. Your heart considered this repair so critical that it risked death every single night to perform it. Missing sleep doesn't just make you tired. It leaves your heart unfinished. Your gut bacteria are running your heart health, and they have been doing so since before medicine knew they existed. The gut microbiome produces a compound called TMAO, trimethylamine, N-oxide, when it metabolizes certain foods, particularly red meat and processed foods. TMAO travels directly to the arteries and accelerates plaque formation by promoting cholesterol accumulation in arterial walls. But the remarkable evolutionary angle is this. Ancient humans had microbiomes dominated by fiber-fermenting bacteria that produced almost no TMAO. Modern processed diets have replaced those ancient bacterial colonies with species that produce it in abundance. Studies show that high TMAO levels predict cardiovascular events better than LDL cholesterol alone. Your gut bacteria are not passengers in your body. They are architects of your arterial walls, and they are building something based entirely on what you feed them. Genetics loads the gun, but epigenetics pulls the trigger. The APOE gene, the 9p21 locus, the LPA gene, these are real inherited sequences that raise cardiovascular risk significantly for decades, People with family histories of heart disease were told there was little they could do. That is no longer true. We now know that epigenetic modifications, chemical switches layered on top of your DNA, can silence dangerous cardiac genes or activate protective ones based entirely on your behavior. Exercise, for example, has been shown to methylate and silence a variant of the 9p21 gene associated with heart disease, effectively switching off an inherited risk. Your ancestors may have carried this gene for 10,000 years. You can begin chemically suppressing it in 6 weeks of regular aerobic activity. This is perhaps the most important scientific truth in modern cardiology. Your genome is not your destiny. It is your starting point. The single most underestimated cardiovascular risk factor is social isolation, and the data is devastating. Research published in the journal Heart tracked over 500,000 people and found that loneliness and social isolation raised the risk of heart attack by 29% and stroke by 32%, exceeding the risk of obesity, physical inactivity, and comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. The biological mechanism is now understood. Isolation elevates inflammatory cytokines, the same proteins that damage arterial walls. It disrupts vagal tone, the nerve that regulates heart rate and calms the cardiovascular system. Evolutionarily, social isolation in our ancestral environment almost certainly meant death from predation. The body responds to loneliness as a biological emergency, flooding the system with the same survival chemistry that, over time, silently destroys the heart. You were not built to be alone. Your arteries are proof. Everything you have seen in this series, the silent plaques, the inflamed arteries, the cortisol storms, the sleep deprivation, the gut chemistry, the genetic switches, the lonely heart, none of it is inevitable. Every single mechanism we explored has a reversible component. The endothelium regenerates. Epigenetic tags can be rewritten. The microbiome shifts within weeks. The vagus nerve strengthens with human contact and breathwork. This is what TrueBody Science exists to show you. Not fear, but the extraordinary biological truth that your body is in constant negotiation with your choices. Every day is a new set of instructions being written into your cells. If this series changed how you see your own body, subscribe to TrueBody Science right now. Dr. Ryan Cross will be here every week translating the most important science your body needs you to understand. This knowledge is not complicated. It was just waiting to be explained properly. Now you have it. When I lay in that hospital bed at 38, what frightened me most was not the pain. It was that I had been paying attention, and it still happened. I had believed that caring about your health was enough. It is not. Understanding your health is what changes everything. Every person in this series, the runner, the sleepless man, the woman eating alone, the elderly woman at the window, they are not strangers. They are versions of all of us, carrying invisible biology we were never taught to read. You now see what most people never will. You understand what is happening inside the walls of your own arteries at this exact moment, and more importantly, you understand that those walls are listening to you. Subscribe to TrueBody Science, because the conversation between you and your own body has already begun, and Dr. Ryan Cross will make sure you know exactly what to say.